Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Proving Grounds Pod, your one-stop shop for all things Proving Grounds. My name is Smax, and I'm joined by my constant co-host, Cubby. And today, the day after Easter, we have with us, you know what? This is my show. I'm going to say it. Amateur League of Legends Jesus himself, ADFX, the coach for Wildcard
That's a good
Gaming.
intro.
Morgan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Not sold on that intro. There's definitely much better people in amateur than me, but hey, I'll take it.
Gospel of the spoken word, Morgan, as we are going to stick to that theme. But hey, no, I know it's like kind of like last second, so appreciate having you on. But I know that we were really excited just with the first week of Proving Grounds. Heading into the second week of Proving Grounds, seems fitting to kind of talk about what happened in the first week going into the second week as well. Starting right off with your team's result. If you guys don't know, Morgan is the head coach of Wildcard Gaming. Actually, no, before we get into that, Morgan, should we hit on background first, Smacks, or do we go for Proving Grounds right off the bat?
Let's go ahead. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about your team here, Morgan. Of course, we know, but for the fans listening in to Wildcard, tell us like who's on your roster and some stuff about your squad.
So, our roster's really good, by the way. But we got top lane Quacker. I cannot overstate how good he is. He is so consistent and so reliable. And as a coach, going into a series, knowing that I don't have to worry about whether he's going to accidentally sack a wave too much, accidentally going to teleport at the wrong time, it's such a nice feeling.
I'm just gonna.
It is a shame that he's a Shen one trick, but
yeah, I was about to say I'm just gonna squeeze in. It helps when you know he's gonna pick Renekton in every game too, that you get that sort of consistency. So you know.
True. Yeah. I mean, every week in my prep, I go, teams are gonna ban Renekton this week, and then every week teams don't ban Renekton.
He looks really good at it, man.
I mean, we'll get into that later, but like. Panda, I mean, I can't state enough. I mean, Panda is a good friend of mine. We worked together last year. This year, unfortunately, with what happened around the whole poaching situation with Will, we had to get another jungler. Panda was very gracious, joined in last minute, and he's been a huge help. As I'm sure you guys know, our team is full of rookies. Like, Quacker's never played at a high level. Xeno's never played at a high competitive level.
His UOI team was pretty good way back. I will say that. They made top 4 of CeeLo, I believe. Or they were out in quarters against Maryville, but gave him the best
firmly believe that Collegiate is a step behind Amateur.
Oh, absolutely. But like he has minor experience there, right? But,
sure.
Yeah, not the same as this. So yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Luke, before our split, had no experience playing at like this high of a level. And Dapshin, like, even though he had a little bit of experience, he was very, very raw coming into it just because of the fact that previous coaches never really challenged him to play anything outside of the enchanters that he was so good and comfortable on. So trying to transform him and his playstyle completely to this was obviously a challenge. And Panda's voice in helping stabilize this team in game has been such a huge benefit to us just because, I mean, they're just really good players. So
yeah, I saw that Quacker now has 2 accounts in top 100, and Dapshin just recently hit 2 accounts in Challenger as well. Luke has been hanging around Challenger the entire split, I think. And Xeno
Luke was the first one to get Challenger. Actually, no, Xeno was the first one to get Challenger on our team.
Well, yeah, and Xeno was also Challenger TFT. Yeah, so you know,
yeah, rank 1.
Yeah. So yeah, truly smurfing all the Riot games. Valorant's next. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. No, I'd say he should stick to League because I remember him terrorizing my old collegiate team in scrims too. So he, yeah, it's been really fun to hear you talk about those guys. Obviously, just to clarify too, going back, he mentioned the poaching situation with Will. That'd be Trickster, competitive ruling. That's all we need to talk about when it comes to that. But yeah. I mean, it's fun to see you guys like show up. You qualified for Proving Grounds, which think was a little bit of a surprise for some people. Like
Not
with
really.
Well, it based on like the performance at Big with like a different roster, like you had to like bring the other like this new roster together.
Mm-hmm.
In the end, yeah, I think that you guys 100% deserve to qualify, and but I think Giant Slayer, that match against Barrage, obviously there's some unfortunate stuff that went down there, but you guys were able to make it through and prove that you deserve your spot with your competition against Dig, because as we talked about before we booted up this podcast to hit record, that was hands down the closest best of 3 we saw in the first week of Proving Grounds.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And honestly, like, especially when we went back in the VOD review, like, it never really should have been that close. Like, it was very much a case of nerves, which happens. Like, if you look at every other Proving Grounds team, they have at least 2 players who've had extensive experience on the LCS or Academy stage, or are currently on an Academy team. We're the only team coming in with this many rookies. So a lot of our mistakes in those first game and third game were very much like nerves. First time playing on such a big stage for our players. I firmly believe that if that wasn't on the LCS stream, we would have just 2-0'd Dignitas Academy that day.
A little bit of nerves.
Big part of it, yeah.
Yeah.
And that happens. Like, it's part of what you sign up for when you work with such a fresh roster.
Yeah. Because even when you look at some of the other amateur teams, right? Like I think the most green one outside of yours is Zeus. They still have two players who've had extensive history in Academy, right? With Alorum especially, and
Alorum was an LCS first split too. Mm-hmm. So
Dignitas Mirage is the only team that doesn't have any members who have went to scouting grounds or have had any time in Academy or LCS. I know that too. Invert tweeted that.
That's yes. They also got 2-0'd by C9 Academy.
Yeah.
1 versus 16. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but that was expected.
And then EGP is super fresh as well. Keep in mind they've sent people to scouting grounds, but yeah, they're real fresh.
Yeah.
Well, Cubby's making me look like a fool correcting me this much, but you guys still have a ton of rookies, which is awesome. Like having those. I guess that makes 3 teams who haven't had Academy experience outside of Team Luke, but that's this.
But
year,
also notice
Panda.
that the other 2 teams are LCS affiliated, where we have Dignitas and Evil Geniuses Prodigies. We have no LCS affiliation. Somebody please sign us. Anyway.
Yeah. I was actually really surprised that no one picked up Noorg and Zeus. Like, really surprised. I mean, I'm glad that it went down that way because, like, you know, when Summoning Insight starts off today with Alorum talking about how a toilet paper cap beat TSM, I mean, that's just great content, to be fair.
I mean, yeah.
But still, I'm really surprised no one picked up those rosters, and then, you know, those would be the first ones I pick up, but, like, then you look at yours, too. I mean, it's a great roster as well. You have a lot of young talent on there. So I was really surprised that no one came in and picked up any of those rosters. But can you say, like, if there's, like, anyone, like, who even, like, reached out, like, where you guys talked about when it comes to that?
I can't speak about that. Sorry.
No, it's fine. Okay.
That said, I just want to respond to Gofrino in chat 1 second.
Okay.
Mr. Gofrino, I was also a B tier coach on the Wolverine coach tier list. Thank you very much.
Ooh.
Huh.
Not bad.
That's pretty high honors. If I'm being completely honest,
as a caster, so.
Technically, I was in the coward tier, which means that I was like automatically F tier, but also the coward tier was definitely ranked. And if Taco's gonna brag about being B tier, I'm gonna brag about being B tier.
I mean, to be fair, that tier list was the only part of NA that made it to Worlds, or made it very far in Worlds, so you know, that holds some weight.
Yeah.
Yep. So Cubby's been to Worlds. That's why you've got the shirt on.
I was referenced in a grabs tweet. That's all we need.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, we've looked at your roster here. I want to know, like, how has it been coaching on this roster when compared to your previous work? I know you just mentioned Full Spectrum / the Simps from last year. How has this been different from that in like format and coaching and roster and everything?
A couple of big things. One big one is the fact that because I'm the head coach here, I get to build the team around my vision of how to play the game. Whereas at Full Spectrum and Simplicity, I was more the analyst, so I had to help like facilitate them playing a playstyle that I really, really disagreed with. Not that it doesn't work, but the style of gameplay, which revolves around, freeze mid, and you just sack all of your other side lanes to enable your mid laner, is just one that I don't believe in. It works out for some teams, right? As shown by Revival finishing second place in Big League. Like, it works. Or third place, or whatever they finished.
Yeah, it was second.
Second. Nice. Let's go. It's shown to work because that's the same kind of system that they run at Revival right now. But I'm a big believer in the entire map working together, like playing the macro game correctly at levels 1 through 18. And so it's been an amazing experience working with a team that's like willing to embrace it and also has the same vision as I do in how we want to play the game.
Do you feel that, outside of results, of course, because you guys did qualify for Proving Grounds, do you feel that you've been as effective as you wanted to be for this year or for this split?
Absolutely not. But I don't think I can ever be as effective as I want to be without some form of in-person activity. A large part of what I like to do is very hands-on training. And that comes from the fact that I used to teach and tutor calculus and other subjects. Like, I also directed my school's band while I was there. So like a large portion of what I like to do comes from the very hands-on style of teaching, which just really isn't possible online. And so, results aside, I don't think I'll be as effective as a coach as I want to be unless I get to work with them in person, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I don't think very many people are doing that right now because of COVID world, but yeah.
True,
hey man,
true.
It's definitely tough.
More people are getting access to vaccines. I've been talking
Yeah,
to.
yep.
I'm the only person in my house that's not vaccinated, and I saw Flowers got vaccinated. I know another caster is getting vaccinated tomorrow, so it's starting.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Dash won't be the only one standing there on the stage.
Yeah, that's the goal. That's the goal.
That'll be fun. Do you feel like the format for this year has hindered what you want to do as a
Absolutely
coach,
not.
or has it made it better?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think I also approached a lot of the stage games very differently than other coaches did, where I treated some of the stage games as scrims, just as an opportunity to have like more serious scrims to review. So like I like to schedule scrims in like 3 different styles, where we have like practice scrim, tryout scrim, and then performance scrim. So I just treated some of the games as performance scrims. It's obviously not something that any team wants to do, but I wouldn't say that really hindered us, because most of our performance scrim stage games, we ended up hard winning.
Just not the Dignitas Academy one. That was definitely just a scrim, right? Yeah.
Oh no, that was 100% try hard.
Oh, okay.
Just...
I was trying to give you some leeway, man. Like, oh yeah, no.
We didn't play well that game. Like, that's all there is to it. Like,
yeah.
No point sugarcoating it.
Yeah. Do you feel like you guys are gonna be favored to win against Immortals on Friday? You don't have to like go into like how you're gonna do it.
I don't know. Immortals is a very solid roster. They have some really, really good pieces, and their players should, I said this about Dignitas too, but their players should on paper be playing at a very, very high level. So we just have to go play our best game and hope that gets us the win.
Makes sense to me.
Fun fact, I'm on that game, and I'm pretty excited for that to be the second game of the day. I think that I went over all the games week 1, and we can kind of talk about week 1 from the perspective of Wildcard, like also broadly, too. But I actually thought that Immortals, based on community expectations, I was lower on them going into the tournament than some other members of the community. And I think that that was very much confirmed by what I saw from them in week 1, like my initial opinion. And I know a lot of people were coming in and really, really hyping up Pretty. He didn't have a great series against EGP. And I think that Aspect might be the most underrated member of any team.
Absolutely. Aspect is really, really good.
And that guy continues. I know that he's 3 games at Oriana, but he just continued to deliver. And just all he did is deliver in that set and series. Against one of the more hyped up mid laners in Academy too, by the way. So I think that putting him outside of his comfort zone with the Oriana Syndra Seraphine actually really hurt him. I know that he had a decent Lucian game, I think was the game they won on.
They did win when he was Lucian, They had a really strong like double marksman comp against EGP's full melee run at you stuff.
Yeah, they got ahead
early. That was a little bit of a draft diff though. Like it wasn't really anything special.
Yeah, I mean,
my fear and my kind of expectation is I feel like the Academy teams came into week 1, especially against the amateur teams, thinking that there's going to be no competition. It's going to be a straightforward cakewalk. I don't think you're going to see that in week 2 because a lot of the performances that I saw from the Academy teams on stage, like they were not the same Academy teams that we play in scrims. So I think even though amateur did well, my concern or my hope is that the Academy teams come back like ready to fight for their wins, because the only way to describe how they played in week 1 was arrogant ego. Like it was very much not this is an equal opponent, and more so we want to stomp you so hard.
I definitely saw a bit of that. I think the only like really specific version I can like think of off the top of my head, like that disrespect, was game 1 at Team Liquid Academy when they traded their mid for support. So Harry like traded alt and like Winter died, and then they didn't wait for the Oriana to come back with TP. Instead, they like face checked River with a ward behind them, and Barrage like won the fight and won the game off that. I think that was the one example I saw. I honestly, I was like predicting the games like a little bit of like for fun and all that, but like I was 6 for 8 in predictions, and the amateur teams the only one I got wrong was the Barrage one. The other one was the EG FlyQuest series. But I wasn't surprised at all. I really like, I know like having prep for like Northern Arena, like going back and like seeing VODs, I think that outside of TL, 100 Thieves, and C9, everyone's on pretty even footing. And I know that TL have dropped a game. I expect them to come roaring back, but we'll see, man. I think that going into
I agree.
I hate to be Golden Guardians.
Dude.
Oh, yeah.
Golden Guardians.
I agree.
Oh,
no. That has
Golden
to be the
Guardians,
match of the week. That has to be the match of the week, by the way. TL versus Golden Guardians.
I just want to point out how hard Golden Guardians got screwed over by Solfide dropping out.
Yes.
Because
I know.
if Solfide was still around, they would have skipped TL. They would have skipped No Org. Instead, they got the hardest.
Yep.
Oh, God, yeah.
And
like
TSM Academy also got saved by that too, because that would have been TSM
absolutely.
That quadrant of the bracket is hands down the most difficult, with No Org, Golden Guardians, and then TL versus Barrage, who were just immensely underseeded as well. That was hands down the hardest quadrant to draw, and I'm really curious to see who comes out of that, because like, I'm looking at the bracket now, but because it's No Org versus Barrage in the second round, we have an amateur team already that has a pretty easy path to potentially top 4.
Yep.
They would keep in mind that team would have to beat the winner of Dig versus EGP.
Yeah.
And if you get through
Which
that,
I think both teams can do.
if you get through that, you top 4.
You're top 4. Yep.
Well, also, if EGP wins against Dig, then there's already an amateur team right there, right?
Yeah.
It's guaranteed, yeah. And I think that
them.
EGP is favored against Dig from what I saw.
I agree.
He's pretty solid.
Yeah. Dude, I know that no one is like really, everyone's talking about like, oh, Toilet Paper Cat beat TSM. Like, TSM dropped $8 million. Like, Reggie like made that post and everything, right? Amateur went 4-2 against Academy teams this week.
Yep.
No one's talking about that.
Nuts.
That is crazy. Like, that is something that should, like, a win here or there, like, I think that NoOrg, like, there should be an asterisk by their name. Because I think that Viper and Anda might be yeah, they might be the 2 best players at their entire position at this tournament. Like, they're vying for that, right? Like, that's how good those guys are. And that's a really good team.
Yeah.
They have good ex-LCS experience, but the rest of the squads, I mean, Barrage, all 5 players have been in or 4 out of the 5 players have been in Academy at some point, right? AP is the only player that wasn't in Academy. They're 2-0ing TLA, like, who are a favorite. They had a bad day, but like, how is there not more discussion around like what is going on with like these Academy teams and like the development of Academy versus amateur and the decisions not only being made in the offseason by like the teams that are picking up the players, but also the practice environment, right? Because I mean, I know that we have our complaints about Barrage playing 80 games, but those 80 games paid off. Like, I think Academy being 9 games of best of ones, it's criminal to the development of those players.
Yeah, I kind of disagree with you there.
Okay.
Because the 9 games is a minimum. It's a minimum of 9 games. All of these Academy teams could have signed up for any of the tier 2s they wanted to.
Yeah, I don't think they knew that, though. I think that's the problem. I think they'll know that going into summer.
They did not.
So
we talked to them specifically. They did not.
I'm pretty sure they didn't know.
Information packet, but anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, either way, they'll definitely know for summer because Golden Guardians did it. So I think that part of it's definitely going to change. But yeah.
And then the other thing is, sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say the other thing is.
Let the guest go.
You're the guest.
You go.
Do it.
Okay. The only thing I was going to say is, sure, they only got 9 games, but they're also the ones scrimming 6 days out of the week.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have access to that level of scrims, and we don't have access to LCS scrims. No matter how good amateur performs, we're not going to get consistent LCS scrims just because of the difference in play.
Yep.
The Academy teams have access to that. So even the argument of only 9 games isn't valid because you're all working in person. So there's no like, oh, we couldn't get on the same page. You have literally infinite time because you're all paid to do this one thing, which is play this video game. You have staff, you have VODs from LCS teams. You have LCS level players to reach out to. Like, none of the players on LCS are bad. Like, you can learn from every single one of them. So the fact that amateur teams, sure, we played 80 games or whatever, but that's no excuse for Academy teams not performing. That's the resources that I think a lot of amateur coaches talk about. Like, if you have access to so much, you should not be losing at all to amateur teams. Not even if amateur teams are better mechanically, because you should just play the map a million times better because you have 6-10 hours a week more time, just raw more time.
I know that Alorum specifically was talking about how their team, everyone is either working part-time or a full-time student on their team, and they only scramble once or twice a week, 2 or 3 times a week if they are lucky, and they beat TSM up pretty good. I don't really know what to say about that. Like, that's...
Yeah.
At a certain point, it's also a staff issue, right? Like at a certain point, it's also a staff issue.
I think the biggest thing for like in favor of, well, it's only 9 games, you know. I think the biggest thing there is that like a lot of these teams are going to just play a game differently, or like with a higher. They're going to think about it differently. If it's like, oh, this is a tournament game rather than this is a scrim versus these guys. Yeah. So I think that's the only difference. But yeah, you're definitely right. They're like 6 scrim days a week for like that entire time is super, super huge. Yeah. And for teams not named Cloud9, they had the Arena of Legends tournament too. So that was definitely something too. So when Team Liquid comes off of that win, and then they go into the Barrage series and they take the loss, it doesn't really matter how good Barrage is. If they're, I don't know, that was just really shocking. So
TL had a bad day. Barrage had a good day. Yeah.
Sure.
There's no question looking back at those TL VODs, like this is not the same team that we saw in Arena of Legends. There's no question about it, and the ping difference isn't it. It's not. It was macro. No. It was macro decisions, right?
Right. The only other thing that happened in the first round, the first week of Proving Grounds playoffs, that I think would have like made this entire conversation like completely blown up is if Dignitas Mirage actually turned some of their advantages into wins in that series, because it was a lot
against
closer
C9?
than it should have been.
It was like
closer than it should have been, and
they didn't have any advantages, man.
If Darshan plays Vayne and Tryndamere and they lose a game, that is when you start to say, "Holy shit, these guys have the biggest egos on the planet."
Why are they not to leak scrims? But all I'm gonna say is that's not the first time Darshan's played Tryndamere.
Oh, I know. He played it last year in Academy too.
It was a great pick that game. Like in the Skarner it's really good. Like I don't think it's an ego pick. Like it's legitimately a good pick. Like
it is. Tryndamere is a really slept on champion. Like
I'm not saying really that it is an ego pick. I'm saying that if you lose with Tryndamere, people are going to say he has a huge ego because he picked Tryndamere and lost the game, right? That's one of those champions.
That's fair. That's what the community will say.
I'm fully with you. Yeah, exactly.
But I'm still in those games,
there's a good pick there.
The only reason those games were close is off of a Jinx Baron steal in game 2, and that game leading up to that was not close, dude. Every single decision that Hyami was making to try and like skip out in his top camps and then go help out Meech and King. Every single time, Schernfire just got ridiculous advantages off that. Like C9 read him like a book. So
Schernfire was so good that day.
Yeah, it wasn't a close series.
Just really good.
Yeah, it wasn't a close series, but yeah, we're gonna have to see if they can bounce back in the losers bracket. Are there any things that you guys want to specifically hit on when it comes to week 1? I'm kind of curious if there's like a specific set or result that you want to talk about that's a bit surprising. I think it'd be kind of fun, like we all like took one.
For me, the most surprising one, by far, not even like over TL Barrage, was 100 CLG.
Yes, that was gonna be mine. I can't believe that 100 Thieves dropped a game. Seriously. Yeah.
I mean, I expected 100 Thieves to drop a game. Don't get me wrong. Like 100 Thieves is a team that will always try to skill check you.
Yeah.
Regardless of what's going on, they will skill check you, and some of those skill checks will fail. And when they do, they don't know how to come back from that. They just keep trying to skill check and skill check. It's the same thing as 100 Thieves Next from last year, where if they can have better hands than you, they just win. If they don't have better hands than you, or if they misplay, they just lose. Last year in Amateur, because of it being segregated from Academy, there were very few teams that they just lost to outside of Anu. But where it's a little more even in Academy, I fully expected them to drop the games. But the shocking thing to me was the other 2 games where CLG was really competitive, and not just competitive mechanically, but competitive macro-wise. Like they were making decent decisions way more often than I expected them to.
Yeah, they looked like. Look, I know that like we hit on staff earlier and better decisions. I think that's mostly in the TSM reference. I actually think that a lot of the teams that dropped down through failing to qualify for Proving Grounds like have gotten a lot better outside TSM. Like Golden Guardians and EG, miles better than what like we're favoring them over IMT who qualified, right?
Mm-hmm.
CLG
Especially
too.
shout out
EG win
to
is what I
Golden
was
Guardians.
going to say, by the way.
What's
Oh,
up?
The EG win is what I was going to say, but we can keep talking about the CLG.
Yeah, let's
100 one.
we'll hit on this one too because I think that the surprising thing for me, I 100% agree with you with like playing the map in game 2. Hooks pretty much matched every single roam from Poom, and they were able to turn all those fights from 100 Thieves overextending. It was really, really good play, but they aren't taking enough early game and executing upon the early game to hang with 100 Thieves because the team fight angles that they were finding actually real good as the game went on, but they're just too far behind at that point to like make it a game. So I'm curious to see if CLG can adjust to that and then bounce back. Who is their matchup actually? Because I have
CLG plays Fly.
See, that's actually a series that's
That one's really tough.
That one's actually pretty interesting because neither team's good at playing early game. FlyQuest, like, they refuse to play early game. Their entire game is we're going to let people make mistakes into us and then just win. Like, and they're good at that, to be fair. But
I mean, personally, I don't think
probably win
any Proving Grounds team is very good at early game. Like, including, actually, I'd say Barrage, Noorg, and Wildcard are pretty good at the early game. But I really don't think many others have a very solid early game.
out of the amateur teams or like the whole tournament?
Whole tournament.
Really, I think TLA's early game is actually pretty good.
I agree.
When Armeo,
I
specifically
hard
likes
disagree.
especially when Armeo is on Udi or Olaf, they make
Yeah, I
really good
think
decisions.
Greg Armeo covers up for it really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
But fundamentally, I just don't think they really consider the early game. Like, they consider the early game as something to get past to play the mid game, not so much as its own thing.
The final for Northern Arena, they were against FlyQuest, so granted FlyQuest was seeding every early game because that's just how they play. But TL was still making the right decisions across the map consistently macro-wise, and they were getting the 3-4K goals.
Harry's really good.
I
think that it was a huge mistake to put that guy on Cassidon when he's playing really, really well.
That was
so that made me very mad.
I think that TL is gonna patch those things up and still be just a terror in the lower bracket.
Again.
They're gonna be so scary in the lower bracket, man. Poor Golden Guardians, who have honestly drastically improved. Like the steps that Yunbi and Rosethorn have taken.
Oh, absolutely.
Dude, the start of the split did not look great for them, but they've started like Yunbi, feels like his mini maps turned on and he's starting to make a lot better decisions. And then guess what? He still farms his ass off in the mid lane because he's really good mechanically. Rosethorn has a much better idea of like how to play jungle matchups and where to be and where to also help out his team when he needs it. Whereas and also recover, because like I used to watch him make one mistake and not really be able to bounce back and recover. He's doing that really well now. They've improved drastically, and they're probably going to drop out of the tournament as a bottom 4 team, which is not their skill level at all. It's just a terrible bracket draw. But that's probably gonna be the result. So, and if TL gets knocked out in the bottom 4, holy smokes, that would be crazy. I had them as my tournament favorite coming in. I thought they were the best team in the tournament.
Me too.
Interesting.
I think they have the best player in the tournament, and that is Alo.
Jan? Oh.
No. I think it's Alo.
Alo. Interesting.
I think he's the best player in the tournament.
See, personally, I think that's Tally. I'm really, really high on Tally.
Dude, I think really, the best player in the tournament, I think it's
really
Viper.
High on Tally.
Straight up.
Oh, true. But Viper doesn't count. Like we've already agreed that Viper and Anda
he's
don't
in the
count.
tournament.
No, he's in the tournament. Viper and Anda 100% deserve to count if they're in the tournament.
What do you mean?
They are the 2 best players at their position in this tournament. Arguably,
I mean,
you can argue it, but they're really, really, really good. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Outside of those 2, I think Tally's really, really good.
That's not the answer I was expecting to hear at all.
Me either.
But
Really?
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
I want to hear why, actually.
Yeah.
He's just really consistent, and he's also
Yes.
performed really, really well when we've played them not on stage.
Okay.
Like really, really well.
Okay.
That'll definitely
TL
angle it
TL
more.
was by far what we expected to be the best team. Like,
Yep.
like we expected them to be head and shoulders above everyone else, including Cloud9 Academy. So them losing in the first round was kind of like a oh crap moment for us.
Yeah.
Because
Do you have
we
to
have
face
to
them
play
if you
them
win? Yeah.
if we win. So
Is that how it goes? I thought it flipped.
It does.
no,
flip.
so
but it flips with the people coming in.
yeah, we'd play the loser of
Oh,
EG Academy
right.
and 100 Academy, and then TL.
I see. I'm seeing it now. Okay. So yeah, it flips like every other loser
Yeah.
background.
They,
I see that.
they did the format right. To be fair, this is a good.
Yeah,
format.
yeah, absolutely they did. Absolutely.
This is a good format. I know that we've had our issues with TOs throughout the year, but this is a good format.
Yes.
Something that half the TO screwed up. So anyway, moving on. Not half.
Three
A
out
third.
of-
A
three out
third.
of
A third.
six?
A third.
Okay. 2
Okay.
out of 6.
Yeah,
There it
but
is.
anyway.
Do we even count big? Let's just say 2
Oh,
out of
that's
5.
definitely one of them.
Oh, Big screwed up a lot more than
Yeah.
just seeding.
But
Okay,
no,
well,
we
you know
cannot
what?
break.
If Big's one of them,
We're
let's
breaking
just
the
say
first
it's 1
rule
out
of
of
the
5.
podcast.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
If the
Wait,
second
what's the
tier
first
2
rule of the
tournament,
podcast?
Don't talk
we
about
don't
big.
talk about big.
That's the only rule we have.
We've already done it. We already done it twice because we talked about the.
Well, we
the
had to talk about
Jazzy
results.
ADFX roster.
Yeah, results. That's
True.
fine. But
All right. Well,
moving on.
we canceled it out. We talked about it twice. So
Okay,
it
Smacks.
cancels out.
Your call. You were gonna say EG over FlyQuest, which is also a prediction I got wrong, and I was surprised about. So why was that your biggest surprise?
Yeah.
Round one?
So I don't think that the result is like I don't think it's super surprising, but I am just overall a little bit floored that FlyQuest is even in the losers bracket in round 1.
Mhm.
Because this is one of the teams
Top
that
F team.
I definitely had like in my top 5 or 6 of the
Mhm.
of the whole squad, and I was hit with Live Evil Humble Pie, I guess, because I had EG lower than them, and they really turned it on. Like I already knew that Contracts was super sick. I already knew that Shoryu was super sick. I already knew that Jojo Pyong was super sick. But all 5 of them looked so good in that series. And I was especially like really into it because I was pretty low on Mystiques. I'm low on a lot of supports, but I was pretty low on Mystiques, and he really showed up in that series.
He played
too.
much better. He had
and
some
I was-
int games in Northern Arena.
Yeah.
I thought that he was going to be a
Much
lost
better.
condition against. I thought he was going to be a lost condition against Dreams, to be completely honest. But he played the map way better than Dreams in that series.
Yeah.
So I was
To be fair,
really impressed.
they didn't win the early game based on only Mystiques. It was a team effort.
That's
but,
for sure. Yeah.
EG,
Contracts is so fucking good, man.
yeah, Contracts is
Holy.
really fucking good.
Yeah.
Like the Nidalee matchup, we saw a lot of Nidalee into Lilia, and
Mhm.
he hands down played it the best out of anyone.
Mhm.
I think that outside of him and
Absolutely.
Kenby and maybe Acadian, I really don't want to see a lot of Lilias in this tournament. And a 2. And a can play, yeah.
Lilia or Nidalee?
Nidalee. I don't want to see
Okay.
Nidalee outside those guys, yeah.
Okay.
I was like,
Okay, I
it's not
heard.
that hard.
I
Come
thought
on.
you said you don't want to see a lot of
yeah.
Lilia.
If RBM cannot play the game for 4 months and then come in and start picking Lilia and smurfing on it right off the back, that's how you know how much skill it takes to play
Lilia-
Lilia, to be honest.
Lilia is just a brain
I
champ.
also-
You
yeah.
just have to know what to do.
Yeah.
I also think
And-
like RBM got put into like the best possible situation for himself, which is, I mean, really good for him having one of the best mechanical mid laners and a LCS top laner next to you while jungling probably helped.
And a staff that you're familiar with too. 'Cause
Yeah,
obviously,
exactly.
Yeah. No, he was
Yeah.
definitely in a nice spot. And I mean, like, we joke about him all the time, but like on this podcast, because like it's just, I me's fucking hilarious. This guy went
Really
from
big
TFT to
meme.
League, and
Yeah.
his name's really big meme, and then he's smurfing. And also, we used to scrim against him at MSU too. So I have a lot of respect for him. Like back then, he was a good collegiate player.
Mhm.
But now watching him do this on an amateur stage, it's crazy. I mean, this guy is like actually stepped up, and he's not a lost condition anymore.
Yeah,
For the most
Yeah.
part. Yeah.
yeah.
The last thing
I
I'll say
also
about
don't-
that other
oh,
series,
sorry. Go ahead.
the last thing I'll say about the other series is that I think, for me personally, there was. I think that like every team should be trying to get blue. I really like Evil Genius
Really?
Academy on red. Yeah.
Ooh.
Really?
I think
We're gonna talk about
You
side
prefer?
strats. I like this.
Really?
Side strats on this
Interesting.
pack.
I think blue team is really OP. I really like EGA on red.
Dude,
If Tony Top's gonna be pulling out jacks, go for it.
My
I want to see
no-
that more. I want to see them. I want to see them on red.
my no org blue side paradise is now bleeding into everyone else's team.
I actually personally think red side's really OP right now.
You think so?
Is it because of Volley
Yeah.
and Gragas Flex?
Not even Volley and Gragas. It's just right now in the meta, the duos that you can pick are so much stronger than single champions. Like you could just take Hecarim, you could just take Udyr, but you could have, Tristana Rel, you could have Hecarim Kai'Sa, you could have Renekton Nidalee. Those duos offer so. You could have Varus Kench, right? Like you could have Jinx Aphelios, or not Jinx Aphelios, Jinx Thresh, Aphelios Thresh. Like these duos provide so much more than your single pick, even if it is really OP, because most of the OP first picks outside of Volibear and Tristana and Lilia are not flex picks.
And Lily is not a flex pick for every team. It's only a few.
Yeah.
I think to me it just feels like there are two champions that are way better than all the other ones in both jungle and bot. And that is Hecarim Udyr and then Tristana Kai'Sa, right?
Yes.
The things that you're saying about duos are 100% right. Like Thresh activates Jinx, Varus, and then Tahm Kench activates Varus, and then also Senna, right? So like for like the bot lane duos, there are answers to that. But to me, whenever that's true of even one role, but then to have it be true of two roles makes blue side so disgusting, because you can get into situations where you have to ban like both of them, but then for red team the onus is on them to like start that most of the time. And maybe this is just because on my Proving Grounds broadcast day there were a bunch of situations where I thought like this guy's champion pool is so tiny that you have to be blue. So like for Yon's Kai'Sa and for Pretty's Orianna, or for EGP's Hecarim for Tomio, I was like, blue team is so OP for these guys because you have to ban that, and if you ban that instead, then you get the other like broken thing in the other role. So for me, I was like, blue team is so disgusting for all four of these teams that I'm casting. That's my perspective. I have a much more like precise thing on those four teams as opposed to the other 12.
Yeah.
But for EGA, if they're gonna give Tony Top like these disgusting top lane counter picks like the Jax that he's super good at, then that's what I want. I want them to be red, and I haven't been able to say that for all the teams. So I think that's really cool.
It's an interesting, like, really in-depth discussion that I don't know, like, if we like want to table this for the rest of the podcast, as we are like 45 minutes in, but
yeah, we can talk about something else.
It depends. It depends on the team.
I can go on about side things for a long time.
Because no org blue side kingdom I've been talking about since like Risen, or not Risen Cup. Like just the fact that they TF Zoe and set mid, and you're always gonna blind those champs, and then Viper gets all the help he needs, and every team is like, oh, we got to take red side, and like we have to counterpick Viper, like to have any hope of coming back from this team. Where it's like, no, you give them blue, and Fire gets Twisted Fate, and then it just doesn't matter. Like, or he gets set, and it just doesn't matter. And then guess what? Value is playing Senna Ezreal with like Tahm Kench. And it just doesn't matter because they're doing their jobs, and the rest of the map is winning. So
people think that the way to beat Noorg is to target Viper, but he's always going to do Viper things. The way to get to Noorg is to target Fire.
Yeah.
You can, like, you have to get counterpick on 5-fire if you want to win the game. And the only realistic way to do that is blue side. Because you really don't want to be blinding, Scion, Ornn, Malphite into Viper.
Yeah, I think the best games we've actually seen them get pushed was honestly by Golden Guardians, who took a game off them in Cup playing AP Twitch, and then Prismal almost carried one on Jinx.
Yeah.
Then that was one Baron call away from being a 3-game series, right? So
yeah.
Actually, we saw a lot of Baron throws week 1. I know you may not want to talk about that either, but yeah, we saw a lot of Baron mishaps.
I'm pretty sure
FlyQuest game 2
Baron call was like the worst Baron call I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, Fanatics in the chat.
That's another part of the reason why.
Oh, really?
I'm super surprised.
Your guy, the Baron, was it game 2 or game 3 where it was like that elongated Baron dance was rough. Golden Guardians Baron call game 2 against Noorg was rough.
Cloud9 got their Baron stolen by a Jinx rocket again.
Yeah. See, that's why they should have competed in Northern Arena. They would have learned by then. Yeah, that's it.
That's what I'm saying, man.
That's what you would have learned.
We've been watching this for a month now, and the Cloud9 comes
in.
Our
saying in scrims is we know that some objective is going to be stolen by Jinx anyway. So just plan for that eventuality.
Guys, we can't start Baron. Jinx has R.
Just don't.
No. It's not that, but it's like, okay, we're gonna start Baron, but Jinx has R, so let's push out top wave. So when they steal Baron, we can have a tower to take.
Oh God!
Like
accepting defeat.
You can't do anything against it because, like, if the team is good, they'll bring their support so that you can't really body block it, unless you stand at like the edge of Baron Pit, in which case they can do things around that. And the fact that Jinx ult does like 1600 to 2k damage to every neutral objective,
yeah,
you can't even outsmite it unless you're playing like Cho'Gath jungle, in which case maybe don't play in Proving Grounds.
What was the team that did that in oh man, it was Keel, wasn't it? Didn't Keel pull it out in Giant Slayer? Or am I thinking of the wrong thing?
No,
Keel didn't play in Giant Slayer.
Or not.
I'm pretty sure Griffin played it.
The last chance qualifier.
Or no, yeah. Keel played it. Didn't he play it against Barrage?
Or wait, was it against Barrage? I think it was their semi.
I thought it was in the finals. Oh, I thought it was in.
I think it was in the finals. I think it was against
Oh, he played it versus us,
Winthrop,
according to Fnatic.
Oh, did he play against Supernova? That's what it was. Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you, fan. I knew he played it sometime.
Anyway, so it feels like we've wrapped up talk about week 1. Before we dive into week 2, we got a couple other topics that we could hit on. And I'm going to give Morgan a little choose your own adventure here, Smacks. So this is my version of trying to, bring some flavor to the podcast instead of, trivia with Smacks.
Okay.
I got to put in some effort here. Smacks is just carrying everything behind the scenes.
I don't have trivia today, so this is all you.
All right. Choose your own adventure, Morgan. We got 2 topics that we can hit on before we hit week 2 of Proving Grounds in the long day of time. 1, NA coaching and that scene, your goals in Proving Grounds, who you respect, all that good stuff. Or 2, we could dive into the broadcast discussion that had been lighting the fire on Twitter today. And we could talk about that. Because I know that you said that those are both topics that you were interested in. We spent a lot of time on week 1.
Those are both so good.
We can probably get to the one you don't pick later.
Maybe.
If we want to
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go with coaching then.
Okay. Coaching.
I have nothing to do. My 8 a.m. was canceled tomorrow anyway, so.
We're going along with Morgan. All right. So for coaching, I know that you talked a little bit about how you still feel like you're able to do your job like within the format. But like what's your goal for coaching and Proving Grounds this year? And like what's your goal like past this year as well? Like moving forward? Like what do you want to accomplish as a coach?
So before Proving Grounds, I actually didn't want to do anything further as a coach because I personally thought the gap between like myself as a coach and academy level coaches was too big. Recently, I've started to realize that that's not the case at all. And having realized that it's so tangibly close, I kind of want to push for it, like Academy, LCS, EU Masters, whatever it may be. Obviously, I have a lot of other things in my plate too, being a professional music composer. But it's definitely something I want to push for, especially seeing how close it is. And like knowing how big of an impact I could have.
Is that something that you want to like try to do this year, or are you wanting to stick with the Proving Grounds stuff here with the wild card for the summer split as well?
It depends. I mean, obviously, if a really, really good offer comes around, I'm not gonna turn it down. Like, you know, if TL comes to my door tomorrow and is like, "Hey, coach our team," I'm not gonna say no. But also, just being realistic, I don't think that's gonna happen. So, and there are definitely academy teams that I would not work for. So, assuming I get an offer from them or I don't get an offer at all, I'd probably just stick with Wildcard. I think we have a really good thing going here. I really like the org. The owners are really, really nice, and I think some of our plans for next split are gonna surprise people.
Can you hint at any of those at all?
No, sir.
Okay. Do you guys have year-long player contracts, or is it split long?
Yes, sir. Everyone's a year long, except for Panda and Luke.
I see.
Luke's ends on April 30th, and Panda's ends, I have no idea.
All right. Well, sweet. I think we can all get excited about what Wildcard's doing in the summer then. I was already excited, but hearing that some good stuff is coming.
Watching you guys improve, I was kind of hoping for the run back, and if that happens, I wouldn't be mad.
But it's looking pretty likely that we'll have a couple of pieces poached by Academy.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I does not surprise me.
I guess poached isn't the right word to use.
But that does not surprise me at all. Because we've been hyping up, especially Luke, for a long time, and Daption.
But the pieces that we expect to be poached, we also have really good replacements prepped from our developmental team. So, feeling good about it.
That team's been fun to watch over in Upsurge.
I have not watched a lick of Upsurge, so I have no idea what's going on.
They had a pretty good run.
But good choice, Cubby. Good choice. Trust me, you do not want to watch Upsurge right now.
Yeah, I mean,
Garrett, I love you. Nothing against your org.
It is his birthday.
It is not the same level of competition as Proving Grounds. That's for sure.
Yeah, I've dumped all my focus into that. Yeah.
It's been fun. I tune in to that every so often when I'm just sitting here wanting to watch some competitive league. It's a fun time.
Smack's favorite.
Like Supernova was in there, Revival's in there, Wildcard Development was in there. Those are the real good teams.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a fun time.
ISU
that's
won,
really
right?
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Drudos or Katarina OP.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you consider? Well, obviously the split isn't over, so you guys are still in the playoffs. But would you consider this split to be a success for you or the org or the players?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. One of the things that still like hurts me personally is what happened with Trickster, obviously. That in and of itself makes the split a massive failure because that kid has a huge future ahead of him, and him getting banned was really unfair for him. Like, that should not have happened in my mind. That, and obviously double losers bracket runs are nice, but just being in the losers bracket means that we failed somewhere. So it's not a success until we win it all.
Well, I'd say for one, at least hopefully getting players promoted. I mean, like in your role too as an amateur team, that's the tough part, right? Because eventually, like you guys are the Oakland A's of all this. You have to keep on going back to the drawing board and figure out how to compete on a low budget. And the fact that you already have a team that's good and is competing with the high budget teams, and also players that are likely to get picked up, I'd say that's at least a couple cherries on top. Even though I respect you for wanting to win it all. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my players are amazing. Don't get me wrong, and we've accomplished a lot. But at the end of the day, we're here to win. Like, the Miami Dolphins also need to win sometime, right?
Well, they're on the same budget as everyone else. The Oakland A's are not. So.
True.
Yeah.
Budget maybe. Prestige.
True. There you go. Yeah.
So
you really want to be playing with the Patriots 2 times a year? I guess we can't say that now that Brady's gone.
Yeah. Now it's the Bucks.
Now it's the Bucks.
Yeah.
Would you say that would you say that compared to the field of Proving Grounds teams like the academy side and the amateur side, that Wildcard was set up to succeed well in the offseason and going into it?
As much as we could have, absolutely. Now, I'm 100% sure that if we were scrimming with these 5 players since November, and it was just these 5 players, we would be looking like a million times better. The fact that we had like 4 roster changes definitely hurt our development. But also the fact that, we've been together for probably the second shortest of any of these other amateur teams and been able to perform at the level that we have is definitely a big like bright spot for our young guys.
Yeah. Right. I think that makes sense. I mean, the academy teams are going to be hard to beat in that regard because they have the LCS backing and the staff and everything. But
yeah, Golden Guardians have
I want to
the
know what your
literal
thoughts
LCS
were.
staff.
Yeah. But I was curious because you mentioned that like the coaching in that regard, you feel like you can match that. So I was curious on like the team staff regard because I mean you guys have Prussian as well. You guys were one of the few amateur teams to be in the contract database in general. Just super awesome.
I mean, like I said, our ownership has been phenomenal.
Yeah.
I can't speak highly enough of them. They've been amazing. Their contacts, like they've done everything they can to get us more contacts, more space in the scene. Wildcard as an organization has been around for a long time, so they have good people to talk to when we've had questions or even just a little bit of self-doubt, like, can we do this? Because, some scrim weeks were very rough. So having that kind of access was really nice.
Yeah. All right, Cubby. I think we had our adventure with it.
Is it time for adventure number 2?
No, I think it's time to go into week 2.
Oh, week 2.
Or did you want to do broadcast right now?
Well, we're an hour in, so whatever you want to do.
Well, you know what? Let's do broadcast first.
Yeah, let's hit on the hot topic.
We can end off on the week 2 because that starts up tomorrow.
Yeah, you want to fill everyone in on what's going down in case anyone missed it.
Okay, so today on April 5th, there's been lots of Twitter and Discord discourse over broadcasts and how the teams and the players are being portrayed.
Started up by Wildcard's own.
Yeah, well, actually, that's not fair. It started up off of
Honor Thread.
Jake Kelton.
I'm pretty sure Jake started it.
Oh, it was Jake. Okay.
It was Jake Kelton. Shout out to him, starting up conversations as he likes to do over there in the Excellency channel and also on Twitter. Started that one up. and then lots of people jumped on that thread, and Myra's definitely been the one who's talked the most about it. Myra comes from the Wildcard org as the general manager, and yeah, I wanted to get your thoughts on what was said today, Morgan. For context, for those of you listening who haven't seen it or are listening to this well after April 5th, lots of the conversation was about how the cast and like the broadcast in general is not 100% focused on players and teams, and in fact is especially in Myra's opinion, not focused on it nearly enough. And a lot of the things that she was saying was that casters are very focused on entertainment and being personalities a lot.
I'll read the tweet.
Oh yeah,
like where like the conversation that
there are a lot of tweets, so I was trying to generalize it. But
yeah, no, there were like a lot. It was like a massive thread, but where it got down to is casters at all levels have turned into pseudo influencers and celebrities. It feels like people tune in to see casters and then happen to watch a game. The role of a caster should be to give a story / context to a game and explain what is happening in good detail correctly. That was like kind of like her blanket statement based on that thread, and I'm curious. We'll get all of our thoughts in, but Morgan being our guest, we have to throw him to the fire first.
Yeah, and I want to add, the reason that we're asking you about this stuff is, one, because Myra is part of Wildcard, but two, the discussion was started off of the notion that the answer was the question: should casters and coaches and analysts all be talking and sharing information amongst each other? And there are some people that are very against that, some people that were very for that, and I think it's safe to say that Cubby and I are very for that, and part of that is evidenced by us talking to you right now.
Yeah.
But I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
I mean, I absolutely think that you don't even need to pay a coach. Most, if not all, amateur coaches will be willing to help you out if they see something. Especially this split, a lot of the casts became really insufferable because it almost felt like it was more about the casters trying to hype up their reels, which there's nothing wrong with, right? At the end of the day, it's your job too. But it almost felt like that was overshadowing players. Like it almost felt like we were watching casters with a show going on in the background. And it was like, I think I watched like 2 broadcasts all year that were not muted because like casters just said so many incorrect, like objectively incorrect things so confidently. Like it's just so mind-boggling. And almost every coach will, like, if he notices a mistake, will DM you himself, like, hey, this is wrong. Can I have a minute to explain this? Like, it's real. Like, it's just casters. Yes, you need to develop your own brand and you need to have your own, person. You need to be your own person, but at least get the things about the game that you're talking about correct. Don't tell me that it's a smart decision to, give up Baron and Dragon Soul for a bot tower, something that a caster said this year, by the way. Like, if you're going to cast at a high level, at least know the very basics of playing the game that you're casting about. Because, people are tuning in to watch the show, painting a narrative that, either, hey, this player's really good because this was a really smart decision, when, again, Dragon, like, in no way can you argue taking bot tower is worth trading Dragon Soul and Baron for. So now a viewer is either going to think, oh, this is just amateur hour, and tune off because it's so objectively wrong, or they're just gonna mute, which is what I do.
I see. Before I say anything, I want to say I don't want to like have this conversation because I think I'm above it. I'm not like gonna just like I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh yeah, you're 100% right. All the casters that are not Smacks and Cubby do this every single time, and they're just like super terrible. I'm asking you this because I'm one of the casters who you've had to do this to. I will openly admit this right now. I had a cast where I was saying some really dumb stuff about Lilia, and then you, Morgan, were kind enough to message me and be like, "Hey, Smacks, you're a dumbass. This is what Lilia is actually about." And I
The phrasing
was way better off for it. And yeah, am I the smartest person in the world about jungle? No. Am I ever going to claim that I am? No. Should I, as a caster, know the basics of the champions that are being played on my screen? Of course I should. So, thank you for that. And I definitely like agree with a lot of what you're saying. Like there, with the way that this year is geared, us as broadcast have like a much bigger responsibility to be like correct about the game, because and like to know things that are happening about the game, because it's just a higher level of play. Like last year we had two really good teams in a new and 100, and those are probably the only teams that would be competitive for spots in this playoffs, right? I think that's pretty fair to say.
it well, like both of them would have been competitive, but like also, I mean, like let's be real, the only 100 Thieves were the MVP of amateur last year. They were the only people that like actually promoted more viewers to tune in and watch. That's different this year with the setup, but it was, if 100 Thieves was on the broadcast, you doubled your viewership.
Yeah,
yep,
that's how it was.
But if you look at that last year and you have two teams who would be competitive in the playoffs like this, and then you look at this year and there are 16 that made it, and then there were more that could have made it too. Like Supernova probably would have been pretty competitive in this tournament too. They might not have like, gone very far. They could have made it. We got teams like Winthrop that could have done it. There are a lot of examples, right? So I think like just on that, I certainly wasn't, and I know a lot of like casters were not super prepared for the jump. And I'm someone who is like always watching like to try to get better at this stuff. And a lot of it has been just me like over and just thinking about things myself. So the way that you approached me about it, and like you just giving me your perspective on something, was just not something that I was ever going to get on my own. So I think that it's just like that was like super eye-opening to me. And I'm actively seeking that again. Like if some other coach is out there and you're like, wow, Smax is saying this really, really dumb thing, and I really want to mute it. I beg. Please, instead of muting it, just bear with me and then tell me I'm a dumbass later. I beg, please. It will help. It will help so much. And I really do want to help you and help everyone fix this problem that you're describing here.
Because like a lot of what was described in the Twitter thread is absolutely right? Like you want to build narratives around the players, but it's really hard to build a narrative around the player if you can't identify like what they're doing correctly. Like one of the things that I see a lot of people talk about is like Daption and how he dies a lot. Like that's something that I hear a lot of casters bring up. But it's the same discussion that like casters used to have with like Hillisang or Mickey X, which is they die because they're playmaking supports.
It's playing Nautilus.
Like exactly, like you go in and that's it. Like it's Nautilus Leona. Like Alistar, like, if you screw up, you're dead. Yeah, these are playmaking supports. They're designed to be really aggressive. And when your narrative is, oh, he gets caught out a lot, instead of, oh, he does such a phenomenal job at finding these picks, finding these massive engages, it's going to be bad for that player's reputation.
Yeah. I have like a lot of different thoughts about this, and mine, like, some of them are nice, some of them aren't, but I think that
Let's hear the not nice ones.
Yeah, I'll kind of give like the two sides of the coin here, because I think the two big issues are, one, some community members don't feel like their teams or players are being accurately portrayed in the game, for narrative wise, and they feel like also parts of the game aren't being actively portrayed, right?
Yeah.
The other one being the caster personality stuff. I'm going to table that for now and kind of focus more on the first part. And I already talked a lot about this on my own personal stream. I just stream like at the end of like the 6 Proving Grounds tournaments just to... I think reflection is important, and it's kind of fun to like recap and like see how far the scene's come this year. I know there have been a lot of hiccups and flaws, but overall it's been big growth. Like,
improved a lot, yeah.
Yeah, the viewership, our peak viewership, or average viewership, let's say our average viewership, it probably went from like 400 to like 1.7K.
Yeah.
On when it was on Academy, right? That's a pretty big jump. So I think that the increased audience, I think that teams and players have every right to ask more out of casters. I will also fully accept that casters are going to screw up. I think that some casters have screwed up and caught a real raw end of the deal where they get cherry-picked on what they said wrong on Twitter and there's not full context. I'm not a fan of that either. The thing that disappoints me is when coaches and players are like, we wish that, we could have like had our stories accurately portrayed. And I know that I talked a lot about how I've drawn a lot of influence this year on journalism and how journalists go about building relationships with sources, building relationships with leads, and having trust between them and their sources that they're going to get the story right on broadcast. Yeah. And I've talked a lot with my sister, who is working for she works for CBS. That's been a great source for me, and like kind of like learning more about like journalism and that stuff. But I've been incorporating a lot of that into broadcast and my prep and how I go into that. I have relationships with the vast majority of amateur players and teams. And part of that is thanks to this podcast. Part of the reason Smax and I started this was to build those relationships. We thought it'd be cool, and it would give people a platform to tell those stories. But also, like, I feel like that is the bare minimum. And if you aren't doing that as a caster, you are not doing your job. And those are my not nice thoughts. Like, you should be actively seeking to talk with these guys and get it right. Like, that's... Yeah. How do you think I get my narratives on a broadcast? I ask Ido, like, hey, what's up with EGP? Like, what do you want things to push? Or I ask players, like, hey, I have 3 or 4 questions going into this, and I bring up their responses, like, during pre-shows and during the game. It's like, I don't get this because I'm a fucking rocket scientist. I get this because I do the work and, like, actually send them messages. And if they're complaining about that, and people aren't doing that, then please do the bare minimum and DM people. Like, that's... I feel that is such an easy step to make yourself better at your path. And if you aren't doing that, you are not going to be as good as the other people.
And it takes 2 seconds. It takes literally 2 seconds to say, hey, what's new with Wildcard? Hey, what's new with Evil Genius's Prodigies? Like, it's not like coaches aren't going to answer.
90% of the people get back to me. And if they don't, that's fine. Like, I just won't talk about you in broadcast as much. That's okay. I'm prepped to talk for 4 or 5 hours on stuff. Now, I know, like, going to the flip side and, like, the personality point, this is a very nuanced conversation that needs to happen, right? With like, how you're able to incorporate yourself in a broadcast and your value with the game info. I think there are multiple ways to do this, right? And the example I'll draw upon is the difference between casters like me and Smax and Kobe Azale, right? They have a massive following. A part of that is based on the platform they're in. A part of that is they're really fucking good at their jobs. They're dynamite cover casters. But a part of that is like they've put the time into building up things about them. Like the whole bit about like a literal world champion, or, Kobe being a part of CLG and like the ONA team that like won an international title for years, right? Like they're able to build this and play into this and like present that to the broadcast. Are they ever sacrificing what's going on in the game to hit on that in a way that's intrusive? No. But
Nope.
is that an element? Yes. And does it matter for getting hired for gigs? Absolutely, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do I think that LS is a 50 times better color caster than me? No, I really don't. Like, he's good. He brings great game knowledge to the table. But in terms of casting, like, yeah, he's a good caster, but it's not like he's like miles and yards ahead of, like, you know, other people at his craft. He will probably say that himself. He's better at other things, right? Like, he's supposed to be a coach. He's supposed to be an analyst. He's a great personality. But what he brings to the broadcast that I can't is that he has 280,000 followers on Twitter, and he's built that up over time, like building himself up and doing that brand, right? So that part, it does actually matter.
Oh, absolutely.
Should that interrupt the flow of the broadcast and take away from the teams and the players? I don't think so. But that's an element that, like, we have to, you know, like, that matters for us and, like, getting hired for gigs.
Oh, it's definitely needed.
So, yeah.
It's and I mean, you guys, you and Smacks, Rafa, are like the three guys that I think nail it. I won't say perfectly because all of us have room to improve. Yeah. But you guys are by far the best in amateur at that, like, building a personality to the point where it's funny and entertaining, but it doesn't take away from what we're watching. But also, that personality, while, like, you guys do it correctly. I don't want to name names because then it gets a little flamey and a little like not nice. But
it's nice you're saying nice things about us, but also, like Smack said, we fully embrace the fact that we are on air for 5 hours. We are going to screw up, and
we're not above all this at all.
Yeah.
Like,
but
I
also, like,
appreciate the compliment, but, like,
how you screw up matters too, in my opinion. Like, if you like say the wrong thing for a second, it's fine, but, like, you know, when your narrative is built on shitting on a team, or sorry, is this?
There have been narratives that have been built on shitting on a team before. I've read some bad articles about Soul Fide that those players didn't deserve.
When your entire personality is to put a team down, that's when we start to have issues.
Yeah, I know. Like,
and
that was
there's
an issue.
Too many of that kind of a caster.
Yeah,
right
and I know that, like, Rafa himself, like, hosting the UGP desk, like, he tweeted about it today. Like, they screwed up a segment and they got flamed for it, and they fixed it in DMs, and that's usually what we do. I've messed up and fixed things in DMs before. It's fine. I if you think I'm not doing my job, please DM me. I'm not going to say no or not going to hear you out, right? So yeah, I don't know. I think it's like, it's a discussion where, like, you know, like, it's on us to, you know, do our best and people take our word for what it is, but also, like, at the end of the day, like, this is something where, like, casting is, like, it's on the individual themselves to improve and get better, and if they don't do that, then the individuals that will end up getting the gigs at the end of the day. And I kind of have faith that the cream of the crop rises to the top, as, you know, I do in anything that anyone does. It takes skill. So okay, no, I think that I think that's a decent view of the discussion from, like, a coach's standpoint too. It's always good to get that.
There's going to be a lot more to say about stuff like this, but I really appreciate you indulging us in talking about this, because honestly, it's a little bit selfish of us to do this because we're both casters and we want to get better at our stuff, but also, like, we just want everyone to look as accurate as possible. That's the whole reason why we even did the show in the first place.
In my mind, it's not really selfish. Like, if you guys are better at your craft, the only people it benefits is, you know, the players, and I mean yourselves as well. But, like, at the end of the day, it's all about making sure the players look good, right? Yeah. And
if we do that, then, you know, that's our job.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's our job. So cool. All right. Big shift now, getting away from the shitstorm that hit Twitter today into the second week of Proving Grounds. I know that we've been going for an hour 20. This is pretty long. We're probably trying to wrap things up in 10-ish minutes here. But I'm curious.
Let me give you the schedule.
What is your matchup to watch this week? And what is your upset that you think is going to take place this week? The upset of the week. Not based on seeding, but based on, like, team strength, like, perceived.
So I have the schedule pulled up.
Yeah. I'm just going to say it for our audio listeners. So for tomorrow, actually, you know what? I'll do winners first and then losers. Okay.
Sure.
So, winner's side, we have Cloud9 Academy versus Zeus Gaming. We have Evil Geniuses Academy versus 100 Academy. We have Dignitas Academy versus Evil Geniuses Prodigies. And then No Org versus Barrage Esports. So that's the winner's side. And then the loser's side is Golden Guardians Academy versus Team Liquid Academy, which is a ridiculous game. We have FlyQuest Academy versus CLG Academy. So, again, I'm going to.
We're guaranteed an Academy team is bottom 4.
Academy, yeah, in both of those
Multiple.
series, which is ridiculous.
Oh, true.
2 Academy teams are bottom 4. And
then we have
TLA,
Dignitas Mirage. Yeah, we have Dignitas Mirage and TSM Academy. And then on the final day, we have Wildcard versus Immortals Academy. So that's all of next week.
Okay, before we get into this is like random off topic. I have a fun seeding idea for Proving Grounds going into the next Proving Grounds. Because I think the seeding of this is a massive issue with how the format takes and the perceived strength of amateur teams.
The only problem is if you have a solution, then that's
I do. Here it is. You ready?
Okay.
2 groups of 8. Everyone in that group of 8 plays each other best of 1. Those games happen. They not all have to be streamed. They go on amidst like 2 days, and then you seed from there. So the top seed in each group, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, or like whatever, and then you kind of split it up as you go. So the 1 seed from one group is playing the 8 seed from another. Slot them in, and then you build a bracket like that.
Huh. I like that. I personally prefer I personally prefer my idea of more of like a world style bracket where we split it into groups of 4, have a double round robin into single elimination tournament, just so that every team gets to play at least 4 or 5 series. Because right now, if you're not a good team or if you have 2 bad days, you're only on stage for 2 days.
Yeah.
Which kind of sucks when you think of it as like the final accumulation of like 3 to 4 months of hard work.
Hey man, it can't be worse than UGP where it's 3 tournaments hard work into a single then best of 3.
True.
Sorry, Garrett.
Yeah.
Rough. Yeah, that was rough. All right. So, did you mention the losers bracket matchups yet? Yeah.
I did.
Okay. I'm going to eliminate TL versus GGA from being your match of the week because that I think is unanimous the match of the week. It's not.
Well,
it's not for me.
Okay.
Well, for you, it's Wildcard Immortal.
Personally, yes. for your average viewer, the most entertaining match, or I think the highest level of gameplay that you're gonna see this week, I think, is gonna be No Org Barrage.
The 2 AM teams. Okay. That's fair. Smacks, what is your match of the week to watch? I'm going to eliminate TL GGA.
Are we going for if we're going for highest level of gameplay?
No,
you're just drastically.
Which one do you want to watch? Whatever one you were most excited to watch.
No Org Barrage for sure.
Okay.
Everyone wants to watch that one.
Okay. I will take the free piece of candy. I think EGA versus 100A is going to be a really entertaining series. They're 2 of the better I'm going to go against Morgan's take here, but they're 2 of the better early game teams in the tournament. And EGA did blow FlyQuest out of the water in one of those early games. Yeah. And I think that they're 2 of the most mechanically skilled teams in the tournament, too. Probably the 2 most mechanically skilled teams in the tournament. So I think that that's going to be a really, really fun series.
Not counting No Org?
No. I think that 100 Thieves are more skilled than No Org.
Really?
Like on average? Across all
pound
5?
for pound, dude. Luger Pooms, and their hands are insane.
I mean, yeah.
They're very good.
I'll give you that.
Okay. Then what is... You get 1 upset. And you can put odds on it. You can put a game score. You can put confidence level. What is the 1 upset you think is going to happen? Ignore seeding. We're going off of community power strength. What is your
I'll let you go for it, Max.
Yeah. All right. I can give Morgan some more time.
Because I have 2 and I can't decide.
I think EG are going to beat 100.
Okay.
For what it's worth, what was the other thing? No, that was it. That's all I got.
I
Oh,
think
Dignitas Mirage, I think are going to beat TSM.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Smacks, I'll have whatever
Yeah.
you're smoking.
I think TSM.
Don't get me wrong. I would love to see it. If for nothing else than the memes, I would love to see the Twitter memes if TSM loses to Digmig. I also think that the odds of that happening are like 1 in 99.
I think the odds of that are very low. But that would be very funny.
That's, you know what?
My heart really wants it to happen.
This sounds like you guys have no idea, like you have no faith in it. So I'm gonna make that one my upset. I think that's my pick.
Okay.
Dignitas Mirage beats TSM Academy 2-0 on what day is it? On April 8th.
Oh no, it's April 8th.
Clip it, send it. It's happening.
Set your calendars, guys. Clip it.
Prepare for me to be right.
Honestly, if this happens, I'm clipping this. I'm going back and clipping this immediately.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's a hot one. I am torn between two. I will give the one that I'm not going with, but with my honorable mention. I think the EGP are going to beat Dig Academy. I think they match up really well. A lot of Dig's errors and mistakes happen with their mid-game wave management where they group too early. I actually think the EGP have better macro than Dig. I think that their hands are not quite as good, but Tomio, one of their strongest players, matches up pretty well with Acadian, the strongest player. And I think that Shiro Mist in the Spawn JJ, they definitely play for the later parts of the game. And I think that Shiro Mist can maybe punish them. And I'd love Samira comps, so please more Shiro on Samira.
Yes, I agree.
The one that I'm actually going with in the upset, I think that Wildcard beats IMTA. I'm not saying that just because Morgan's on here. I actually think that Wildcard are going to beat IMTA. I think they match up really, really, really well. Once again, Pretty, Xeno, both just going to default to control. But I think Panda Quack are going to be able to get things rolling on the top side. They might be able to shut down Tapoon, who has had some rough wave management. And I like Luke Adaption into Keith and Joey. I think Joey has been the best performing player on IMT, but I think that Daption's been the best performing player on Wildcard. So that's a good sport matchup actually to watch. I think both those players are pretty good.
Just keep in mind the Xeno can default to control. We'll discuss that next week. Anyway,
we might see some Silas of his too. Yeah,
see you on Friday.
Yeah.
Oh, you'll get a front row seat.
Yeah.
I think I'll cheat as well and go the Covey route of giving an honorable mention. I think my honorable mention will be Zeus beating C9A. I don't think C9A looked good at all against Digmig. They played much worse than I expected them to.
But
and I think that
was so good.
Oh yeah,
Surefire.
Oh yeah. So here's the thing. So far in all of Proving Grounds qualification and week 1, no team has targeted RBM. No team has put down the gauntlet in front of RBM and said, Lilia, Hecarim, Udyr are off the table. What are you going to do now? And I don't think Cloud9 is going to do that either. If they do that, I think it's going to be a 2-0 stomp in Cloud9's favor. If they just ban RBM's 3 junglers,
Morgan
I think Cloud9 is going to stomp.
All right, keep going.
But I don't think they will.
Okay.
So I think it's going to be 2-1 in Zeus' favor.
Okay.
But the real upset that I really think has a strong chance of happening is GGA beating TL.
Woo-hoo! That'd be spicy. It'd be spicy. I think...
Oh, boy.
I won't go into too much detail, but I think GGA match up really, really well against TL, where what TL want to do, I think GGA have the better players to do it. Now, if they can execute, that's a different story. But I think
Morgan's
GGA is going to 2-0. I think GGA is going to 2-0 TL.
Wow.
Oh man.
Okay, that's
If TL drops
pretty
0-4 in Proving
pretty
Grounds,
spicy.
I
That
don't know.
I would look real bad for that. Just throwing that out there. No, I'm kidding. That doesn't
Me
matter.
too. I've been simping for Ayla for months. Oh,
I think that we've seen Yawn off Kaisa have some spacing issues. And I think that Prismal and Chime might be able to punish that. I think they might be good enough. And I think Tally like hasn't been the high point for me. I actually think that Yunbi, like into Harry, if Harry's not on Twisted Fate and it's a handshake, I think that Yunbi can get a little bit more out of that in the long run. Like Harry kind of threw game 1 against Barrage with the Shockwave Winter trade. And then, I mean, it was TL's choice to walk in and, yeah, they walked into the river. So that was also TL's choice. But Harry did go down with a bad trade there, and TL ended up kind of floundering after that. They had a pretty big blunder on the map. So we'll see. Anyway. All right, Morgan. Congrats. You are now the longest episode 16 of the Proving Grounds pod, sitting at a little bit over 90 minutes.
Very nice.
Is there anything that you'd like to say to close on out to anyone listening, whether that is today or moving forward? Where can we find you? Any shout-outs you want to give? Floor is yours.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter. ADFX something.
We got it. It's on the
screen. Sweet.
Yeah.
Perfect. Sometimes I stream on Twitch, ADFX_01. It's mostly music, but hey, if that's your thing, come join me. Academy teams who are watching this, please pick up Quacker. He's so good. Please pick up Daption. Please pick up Luke. Like, these guys are 3 of the best players in amateur right now, and none of them have played any significant amount of games at a high level. Just pick them up. Give them time in your system. They will save NA.
Daption will save NA supports. We've been saying that for a while.
Yep. Facts.
To be fair, Rhino's making a rival for that, which I'm a fan of. I love good NA supports. Just depends on which side of the bed Rhino wakes up on.
There's very few of them.
Yeah, I know.
Yep.
Yeah. Bucio's still a
Even
hope
Academy.
of mine. He's still up there.
I miss mid-lane Bucio.
Mid-lane Bucio was
too.
damn good, but Bucio support, I have faith.
Yeah.
I have faith, but also, just why? I was convinced like he was going to be a top 4 mid.
If you've
in all
hopped
of
in a
NA.
call with him and you've listened to how well spoken he is at his age, you somewhat understand why. He is just natural support in terms of his ability to like be vocal and game knowledge already. So that kind of lines up. And the guy's mechanically
I'm
sick.
pretty sure he's climbing on a jungle account right now.
Yeah.
By the way.
Yeah, he's a beast.
Let me. What's his rank right now?
I love how like we're trying to like
Bucio
wrap up the
jungle.
podcast and we're like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
NA supports in Bucio.
Bucio.
Oh no, he's still playing support in this account. Never mind.
Hmm.
His account name is Bucio Jungle, but he's playing support.
Mhm.
Anyway, yeah, that'll do it from the podcast. Thank you so much for being on the show, Morgan. This has been episode 16 of the Proving Grounds pod. As Cubby said, the longest one. The only other one to go over 90 minutes was the one with Zoo. Something about coaches, man. I don't know what it is. Being long-winded and stuff. So thank you so much for tuning in. You can find us on all of our platforms at Proving Grounds Pod. We got Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Twitch, Anchor, and Google. All those ones. Check us out there. You can also follow us on Twitter at PGroundsPod, where we post updates for all of our stuff. And sometimes I post something. I don't know. Sometimes I post stuff.
We post
and
stuff.
You can check it out there. But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you all on Friday with a very special guest that I'm not going to disclose quite yet.
Okay, working on.
We'll see. I'm pretty sure that's locked in, but we're gonna find out. But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a good night, everyone. Bye bye.